What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are back with another tennis video, and as you can see, I'm going to rank the tennis seasons between 2011 and 2023 into five different tiers. Now, the reason why I'm making this video is kind of interesting in my opinion. I was thinking about the age gap between Novak Djokovic, who happens to be the oldest guy in the top 10, born on 22nd of May, 1987, and the second oldest guy, Daniil Medvedev, who happens to be born on 11th of February, 1996. There is almost a 9 year age gap. And I was wondering what the hell happened to these guys born in 1990, 1992? Because Novak also happens to be the youngest member of the Big Four because he's a whooping 7 days younger than Andy Murray, and actually the youngest member of the Big Five because Stan Wawrinka, he was a factor in the mid part of the 2010s. He was born in 1985. So it seems to be like there were no good tennis players born in like 1990, 1992, 1994. It's really interesting. Now, obviously, the guys born in that period of time were significantly nerfed by the dominant Big Four, by the peak Big Four. But I felt like there was nobody really knocking on the door in like 2014, 2000. So let's say like you were born in 1993. You arrived in like 2013, 2014, right? You're a young 20, 21, 22-year old guy. And you're knocking on the door like, hey, Roger, hey, Rafa, hey, Novak, hey, Andy, like, I know that you're here right now. I know that you're better right now, but I'm going to get you. I'm going to beat you. And I'm going to be number one really, really, really soon. Something like Alcaraz, something like Sinner are doing right now. Now, obviously, right now, we don't have the big four. We only have Novak. But I felt like there was nobody who was doing that in that period of time. It's really weird. And we had to wait up until basically 2018, 2019. 2019 was basically the first real year of a established wave of new tennis players, new young tennis players in the form of Dominic Thiem, Stefanos Tsitsipas, Daniil Medvedev, and Alexander Zverev. And actually, it's really interesting to know that Thiem was born in '93, but all of them kind of arrived in the same period of time. Thiem needed a lot of time to become really good. He was slowly climbing up. I mean, he was a top 20 guy for a while, then a top 10, then a top 5, but he needed a lot of time to arrive into the like upper part of the top 10, top 5. Medvedev was pretty much a nobody until 2019. And then Zverev was actually a good tennis player in 2017, winning Masters tournaments, but that wasn't the real deal. And they all kind of arrived in 2019. And now we have a healthy supply of new tennis players born in the early parts of 2000s, the 21st century, basically, in the form of Yannick Sinner, Carlos Alcaraz, Holger Rune, and some of the other guys who were born in like 2002, 2003. So that seems to be, much more healthy than it was like in 2017, for example, 2016, when we had two members of the Big Four duking it out for the number one spot for the Grand Slam, and then nobody else really was there besides 10. Wawrinka was also an older guy, so that's kind of interesting, and uh, I'll get onto that a little bit later in the video. So I won't waste your time, and I'll put 2011 and 2012 right in the peak tennis. And it's not only because of the Big Four. Like the Big Four, I mean, that was peak Big Four. The Big Four, the Big Four, the Big Four, all four members of the Big Four were in a Grand Slam final, only Grand Slam semifinal, only four times. So it's a lot of fours here, a lot of fours. So all four members of the Big Four were in a same Grand Slam semifinal only four times in tennis history. And three out of those four occasions happened to be in this time slot. The fourth one was at the 2008 US Open. All of these four guys, even Andy Murray, who won the 2012 US Open, were perfectly capable of winning a major, let alone a Masters tournament, let alone a ATP 500 or something like that. Perfectly capable at being continuously good on each and every surface. Maybe Murray wasn't that good on clay, but he was still doing really, really well. And this was peak tennis. And it wasn't peak tennis only because of the Big Four. Big Four. It was peak tennis because of a healthy structure of the top 10, top 20. So the structure can be examined in two different ways. You see a guy like David Ferrer. David Ferrer was a number five guy, and he's a true number five guy because he is a bit better than the number six guy, a bit better than the number seven guy, but he's not as good as number four, number three, number. So David Ferrer is a true number five guy. Really important to have a David Ferrer. Really important to have a Thomas Berdych, a stable member of a Big Ten, who's always going to make your quarterfinals, who's always going to show up, win a couple of matches, beat the guys who they're supposed to beat. Basically, Andrei Rublev would be the equivalent of David Ferrer in 2011, 2013, and so on. Um, Really important to have those guys. And then you have your Tongas who can actually show up and maybe, beat some of these guys, maybe grab a Masters tournaments. He was the 2008 finalist. If everything comes together, maybe he can win a major. So it's really good to have a structure like this. And you can clearly see it in 2012 with Del Potro being. So the thing about Del Potro in 2011 was he was injured for the bigger part of the season. And nobody really knew that Del Potro was going to have so many issues when it comes to his overall health. So there was this, pretty optimistic standpoint on Del Potro that he's going to be a big member of the top five, maybe a top elite big five, with Andy Murray, Roger Federer, Novak Djokovic, and Rafael Nadal constantly winning the majors. But it didn't really happen, so that was really unfortunate. And if we go back to 2011, we have Robin Soderling, of course, the guy who beat Rafael Nadal for the first time at the French Open, and he had issues with mononucleosis. I think he ended up retiring because of that. So that's really important to have a guy like that in your top 10, 15, or something like that. But of course, Robin Sullivan had to retire. And of course, you had some older guys like Andy Roddick, which is also essential. You have to have guys who are like 32, 33, 34. Marty Fish was an older guy. Tipsy was here. Tipsy, one of my low-key favorite players of all time. And of course, a young Stanislav Wawrinka, not so young actually, 26 years of age. And of course, some of the young guys are cracking in. John Isner, we had, I think Raonic arrived in 2013 actually. But nevertheless, you can clearly see the player structure and you can clearly see the point structure. Look, we have Novak number one, clear number one. The gap between number one and number two should be the biggest, right? And then the second biggest gap, the point gap, should be between the number two and number three, which is good. The third biggest gap happens to be between the number three and number four. So all of this is really healthy. And the structure, like you have some 4,000s, you have some 3,000s, you have some 2,000s, and then you have some thousands. So this is really healthy. And in my opinion, the most important thing is to have four guys who are perfectly capable of winning a major. So the worst thing that can happen is to have three guys and one bum at number four, and then somebody's going to get screwed by the draw, or basically just have one good guy who's always winning the major and nobody can beat him. So this structure is really healthy because we have four guys who can win a major, and then we have the quarterfinals. If you compare that to 2017, you have the two guys here, Federer and Nadal, and you can do it with 2016 too. And then who are these guys? I mean, basically, they are here by default. We have Zverev at 4,410 points at number three. We have Team with less than 4,000 points at number four. I mean, Zverev right now has more than 5,000 points and he's ranked number six. So, I mean, it's just totally unhealthy ranking. Just like, I mean, we have the same number, basically the same number of points from number three all the way to number 20. See this? You have 4,400 and 2,000 points. You have 7,000 points and 1.7k points at number four. So this is healthy, and the 2017 is not. And that happened to be a long process, which kind of started with the 2013 season. So the 2013 season, we had two different peaks. Early 2013 Novak, and then Rafa took over. Like Rafa truly took over from Madrid. I think it was Madrid. So he won Madrid, he won Rome, he won Roland Garros, he lost in the first round of Wimbledon, and then he won Canada, won Cincinnati, won US Open, beating Novak multiple times in that period of time. So Rafael Nadal was at his absolute peak in 2013, and then Novak. Actually, that was funny. So Novak was ranked number one for the whole season, and then when Rafa was number one, basically Novak was the better player because Novak won Beijing, Novak won Shanghai, he won the Paris Masters, and then he won the ATP final. So he won four tournaments in a row, basically, and beat Nadal a couple of times. So this was really interesting, but this was only a two-horse race. So we have David Ferrer at number three, had a decent amount of points, slightly ahead of Andy Murray, who didn't have a great season, albeit winning the Wimbledon, and Roger Federer, who was struggling with injuries, and this was easily his worst season in the past 10 years. So we have David Ferrer, who's, the fifth guy, now ranked at number three. And I don't think that Ferrer in 2013 was like better than in 2012 or something like that. The problem was that Murray didn't have a good season, and Federer didn't have a good season, and there wasn't like a new young guy like you see Delpo kind of starting to recover from injuries, but it didn't really happen. Maybe you see Raonic hopefully getting there. There were some guys like Isner, but Isner is always just going to be a serve bot, and just Wawrinka Sorry, Wawrinka cracking the top 10. Now I'm talking a lot here, so I mean my voice may die in the couple of following minutes. So hopefully I can finish this video. So basically, what I'm trying to say that David Ferrer is number three by default. So therefore, I'm going to put the 2013 season in the decent category. I don't think that it was a good season at all. Let's go to 2014. Now, I think 2014 was a bit more diverse, therefore a bit more better. Novak won a slam. Roger didn't win a slam, but he was a really consistent player here. Rafa won a slam. Stan Wawrinka won a slam, and Marin Cilic won a slam. You can clearly see a lot of guys having around 4,000, 5,000 points. A lot of guys were mostly capable of winning a slam. That's why we had four different winners. Kei Nishikori was a finalist. Andy Murray had a bad season. Thomas Brodie was a consistent player. So we have sort of like a closer top 10. All of these guys are perfectly capable of beating each other. But I still would like to have more new guys like Raonic is kind of entering the top 10. David Ferrer is still kind of there. We have Dimitrov, who's a young guy born in 1992, slowly entering the top 10. So hopefully he gets there. Globus is a talent, but he's not that young anymore. But yeah, I just wish to have more younger guys in the top 10. So I cannot really hate in 2014. I'll put it in a difficult category simply because a lot of these guys can beat each other, and we didn't have like a dominant champion, something like that. But yeah, I would wish to have a couple of younger guys there. Now, 2015 actually was a decent year in my opinion. Rafa struggled with injuries a lot. Burdick and Ferrer, the typical guys, are still in the top 10. Nishikori is a consistent member of the top 10. Gasquet is still hoovering around with Tsonga. I'm not going to comment this lower part of the top 10. I don't think that this is healthy. Like, we are supposed to have new guys here. But when it comes to the top four, Wawrinka, of course, won the 2015 French Open. He's a really dangerous guy. Now, the problem with Wawrinka was that he was never that consistent. Like, he won only one Masters tournament. His highest career ranking was number three. He was never this guy who was constantly going to win 20 matches in a row, 30 matches in a row. 28 out of 30, become number one. He was a guy who could beat you. He was a overachiever, but he was never a guy who was, meant to be world number one. Andy Murray, Loki had a really good season in 2015. I have Andy Murray right here. So if you look at 2015, he had a really bad sort of 2014 and a up and down 2013. But in 2014, he regained his consistency. He was constantly making at least semifinals. He won two Masters tournaments, reached another two finals, and three more semifinals. So he was a consistent member of the top three. Actually beat Novak, I think, in Canada. And of course, we had Federer, and I was really actually surprised to learn that Federer only finished number three that year because I felt that Federer was really good in 2015. Now, obviously, he didn't skip the clay season, but he wasn't playing that many tournaments, right? He started skipping the clay season in 2016. But he played the U.S. Open final. He played the Wimbledon final, and I thought it was really good. I thought the 2015 Federer is at least as good as the 2017 version. It's really underrated in 2015. So as I mentioned, I was really surprised to learn that Federer was only number three. Now, as I mentioned, I would really love at this point to have a younger guy entering the top 10. But when it comes to the upper echelon, it's really difficult to win majors because Federer and Murray are still kind of there, and Wawrinka is starting to show up more. But when it comes to the guys who are under the top four, and Nadal is not in form, all of these guys are just going to lose to Novak. So, I mean, I think I have to put 2015 only in the decent category. Um, Let's go to 2016. Now, you can clearly see the problem here. Like, you can clearly see the problem here. We have a clear two-horse race, Andy Murray, Novak Djokovic, who ended up duking it out at the ATP finals. And then, like, we have Wawrinka, who's, obviously won the 2016 US Open. But again, he's not consistent. Raonic is kind of there, but look at the number of points, only 5,000. So Raonic is slowly climbing up. He didn't have a good 2014. He kind of showed up, I think, in 2013. You see him at number eight, but it's almost the same number of points. So you see Raonic having 4,400 points in 2014, and then he's number three like he's number three here after the season-ending tournament with only 1,000 points more. So it's kind of like, come on, man. We need somebody at the like 7,000, 8,000 point range, but there's nobody to get there. Like we have Rafa who is tremendously struggling this season. We kind of have Dominic Thiem slowly entering a 23-year-old Dominic Thiem slowly entering this race, but we still have guys like Gael Monfils, Joe Wilfred Songa, Kei Nishikori, like the same guys basically are always here. Now Nick Kyrgios here. I mean, at this point, we were hoping that Nick Kyrgios becomes this really good player, and Dimitrov is still really, really young at this point, but nothing really happened that was really good for Nick Kyrgios. And Dimitrov did crack the top three in 2017, but we all know what happened after it. So, you know, 2016 to me is just only math. Like you can clearly see how the ATP top 10 is falling apart. Now let's go to 2000. The hell happened here? Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm just getting lost. 2017. Come on, man. What is this? Like we have guys who are basically part-timers, Federer playing 11 tournaments, who's number two. We have Zverev with 4.4 thousand points, number three. Team is a young guy. He doesn't even have 4,000 points. He's number four. It's just not good. Like this is not good. Novak, of course, injuries out of form. Del Potro is trying to come back. We have basically guys like Zverev, like Team, like Dimitrov, there in the top 10 by default. So, 2017 just wasn't a good year at all. We had Jack Sock in the top 10. Yeah, 2017 is easy. I'm sorry. I know you'll call me a hater because I'm a Novak fan. I'm basically like shitting on the Fidal season. But I'm sorry. 2017 was an easy year. 2018. Um, it only got better because Novak arrived. But and Del Potro was kind of back, and Zverev, I mean, he has slightly more points. But I don't think that Kevin Anderson was much of a player. Cilic is still there. Team is still waiting to break through. Nishikori is there. Isner is a serve bot. Hachanov is kind of a new player, but he seems to be limited. So, you have these guys. Tsitsipas is kind of slowly showing up with Medvedev. You have these guys, and just I mean, it's the same guys, and Novak only needed 8,000 points to become number one. Novak was number 12 before Wimbledon, and he was number one after like 3 months. So this just shows that this depth is not that good. Federer and Nadal and even Djokovic are not playing each and every single one of these tournaments, as you can clearly see by the numbers. So I don't think that 2018 was a good season. It was a bit difficult, bit more difficult than 2017, simply because Nadal, Djokovic, and Federer were there, and Del Potro was kind of coming back from injury. But in my opinion, it's just only math. Okay. So let's go to 2019. So 2019 was interesting to me because we finally, like, this is finally healthy. We have guys who are new, you are young. I can't even speak anymore. And of course, Berrettini, I forgot to mention Berrettini. Berrettini is also a new guy. Um, this is really good. So we have the top three. And we have the next gen of players right here, slightly below. So I really like this. It wasn't like a high quality season because I felt like Novak peaked in early 2019. He dominated Nadal, and then everybody was kind of there at the French, and then Novak's season kind of winded down. He won that Wimbledon by the skin of his teeth. He somehow pulled it off, but then he wasn't good at the U.S. Open. He had some injuries. Nadal ended up winning that tournament. The depth of that U.S. Open wasn't good at all. Besides Neil Medvedev finally arriving, but he was a new guy and nobody really expected him to beat Rafael Nadal. I really like the depth towards the end of the season. And who won that season-ending tournament? Yeah, Tsitsipas won the season-ending tournament. Yeah, I really like that too. So, 2019. I'm not gonna say that it was difficult because it's a bunch of new guys, and the old guys are kind of getting older. I'm gonna put it in the decent. I'm gonna put it in the decent category. It's close to being difficult in my opinion, but I just cannot put it in difficult because the new guys are still inexperienced. Now I'm trying to guess where will be 2020. Okay, so 2020 is a weirdo season, of course, because of the whole COVID thing. Um, I'm not sure what to do with it. Like, obviously Federer wasn't good after Wimbledon. Wait, 2020 February wasn't even playing. What the hell am I talking about? Come on, man. 2009. Oh my God, I switched to 2019, 2020 season. So obviously half of the Masters tournaments weren't held. Wimbledon wasn't held. It was a weird season. I mean, decent. I cannot really talk about it. It was just a weird season overall. Now, I think 2021, 2000, wait, 2021 is a really difficult year. Now, obviously, Nadal was struggling with injuries, but when it comes to late career Nadal, it's really important to know that was he there on the French Open? He was. He was a factor, and he would have won that tournament if not Novak Djokovic. And that's what really counts about Rafael Nadal. So obviously, he missed the rest of the season, which is not ideal. But obviously, Daniil Medvedev was really, really good. Alexander Zverev was really, really good, and Stefanos Tsitsipas was really, really good towards the end of the season. So this season is, in my opinion, kind of difficult. Of course, Berrettini being a constant quarterfinalist, Rublev being there is really important. Now, I actually think that Novak's 21 season is kind of overrated because he only did well on majors, basically. Like 7,200 points came of the majors, right? I mean, I'm not even sure. Did he win maybe one Masters tournament that year? I felt like he was only winning majors and he was struggling at times and he was losing sets. And of course, he ended up losing to Daniil Medvedev in the end. So I don't think that Novak had that good of a season. Of course, Federer is gone by now. Nadal played for half a season. Um, do I put it in decent? Maybe I should put. I'm gonna put 2019 in difficult because I think Loki 2019 was a bit. Yeah, I think 2019 was a bit more difficult than 2021 in my opinion. Yeah, I think that that is the case. I think that must be the case. Okay, let's go to 2022. Now, I'm not even going to ask for you to look at the points because it's horrific. I'm just going to ask you to look at the names. Novak Djokovic, gone. I mean, he's still number five, whatever. Daniil Medvedev, gone, number seven. Alexander Zverev, injured, number 12. He was number two at some point. Stefanos Tsitsipas, well, he's still number four. Andre Rublev still there. Matteo Berrettini, injured. Like, all of these guys are gone. What the hell happened? What the hell happened in 2022? Novak, the whole COVID thing, Russian ban, Berrettini, Nadal, all of these guys. Like Nadal was injured for half of the year, and he's still number two. I mean, he missed out on number one by 800 points. It's absolutely ridiculous. Casper Ruud almost became number one. Alexander Zverev was supposed to become number one, but he got injured. Like all of these guys were completely wiped out. Ruud, yeah, just I mean, no offense to Casper Ruud, but if you have Casper Ruud at number two, something's wrong with your list. Like there are some guys who are missing. Felix was number six. I'm not going to get too much into this, but I think 2022 was, I mean, probably as easy as 2017. And finally, 2023. Now, the beginning of the season, you can easily notice this by the 2023 Australian Open. We had Karen Khachanov versus Stefanos Tsitsipas in one of the semifinals, which would be, I mean, a good round four matchup, I guess. And we had Tommy Paul versus Novak Djokovic in the other semifinal. So that's absolutely trash. Like, that's trash. But when we arrived at Wimbledon, we had the top four guys: Carlos Alcaraz versus Daniil Medvedev, and we had Novak Djokovic versus Yannick Sinner. So this is really good. And basically the same happened at the U.S. Open with Sinner losing earlier in the tournament. We had three out of four guys being there, three out of four guys that were supposed to be there being there. And in the end, we also had Alcaraz, we had Medvedev, we had Sinner, we had Djokovic, and the semifinals of the season-ending tournament. So this is really, really, really good. And I think 2023 is a story of two parts. Of course, Rafa wasn't at the French Open, so I cannot really put in a difficult tier. I think the beginning of the season was basically shades of 2022. It was really easy, but the end was actually really difficult. So, is it decent or is it meh? I mean, I think it's just slightly below 21, so I think I'm gonna just put it in meh. I'm gonna just put it in meh. If look, if it would be like if Roland Garros would be Sinner, Djokovic, Medvedev, Alcaraz, I would put it in decent. but Roland Garros was still kind of shit. And of course, Novak and Alcaraz played a really difficult match, but Casper Ruud made the final. Come on, and he played Alexander Zverev, who was recovering for the injuries. Like I don't know. For some reason, I love to shit on Casper Ruud. I'm sorry, Casper Ruud fans. But yeah, I just cannot put it in decent. I think it's just kind of meh in sort of like 2018 range, recovering from the previous season. As you can clearly see, so 2018 is recovering from 2017. 2023 is recovering from 2022. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I know I was kind of just rumbling towards the end of the video, and I was having difficulties finding the exact year. But yeah, I mean, I'm really tired. I'm talking for 25 minutes, and that's pretty much it, guys. Let me know in the comment section what you think, and see you.